Founded by public school teachers, Educators for Excellence is a growing movement of 25,000 educators united around a set of values for improving student learning and elevating the teaching profession. Currently, this national education nonprofit is advocating for increased funding for guidance counselors and psychologists in our schools. Here in Boston, the organization opened its local chapter in 2016 with a mission to ensure that teachers have a leading voice in policies that impact their students and profession. Recently, one of our next guests testified at a budget hearing in front of the Boston City Council in support of Mayor Walsh's $2.4 million appropriation for additional school psychologists, social workers, and nurses. Here to tell us more is Educators for Excellence Executive Director Brandy Fluker-Oakley and humanities teacher at West Roxbury Academy, Matt Clark. Welcome to Urban Update, both of you. Thanks for coming in today. Great to see you. Brandy, let me start with you. Just talk a little bit how the organization came to be nationally and also here in Boston.
Yeah, so actually we were founded in New York City in a pizza shop, of course, New York, by two local teachers who were seeing things happening in their school, wanted to do something about it, and decided to come together and figure out a solution for it. And from there, we've grown nationally into 6 chapters across the country, including Boston, which is the most recent chapter.
Wow. How long is Boston? 2016?
2016.
Okay. Now, why, in your view, is it so important for teachers to have this collective voice?
Well, teachers, like any group of people, are not monolithic, right? So they have different ideas and they have different perspectives, but what they do know is that their students deserve the absolute best, and there are some things that are just fundamentally wrong with the system that's preventing them from getting the education that their students need. And so why I think it's so important for teachers to have a collective voice is because it gives them an outlet to brainstorm, to come together, to spend time with one another and figure out, hey, this is what I'm seeing in my classroom, you're seeing that too. We know there's strength in numbers. We can get more done as a group as opposed to multiples, and they have the opportunity to do that through Educators for Excellence.
Okay. Now, Matt, talk to me about some of the hot topics that need input from the teachers.
So the one that we're addressing in the city of Boston right now is trauma and how it impacts student learning. And it's a very critical issue because it affects so many of the other issues that the city's trying to address, things like attendance, things like the achievement gap. So it's one issue that impacts several others throughout the city.
Okay. Now, what about the whole arming of the? We talk about trauma. Obviously, that's related to what we're seeing in so many of our schools, all the shootings and so forth. Even if it doesn't happen in your school, you see it happen in someone else's school. That can cause trauma in itself. What about this whole arming of teachers that talk about that? How's that going over with the group?
I haven't met a single teacher that thinks that that's a good idea and that would solve problems. My own experience as a high school teacher, schools can be kind of chaotic places at times, and the thought of introducing a firearm into a location like that just it seems like it will create way more problems than it would solve.
Okay. Brandy, how do you get so many teachers with these different points of view? You say they're not monolithic as a group, but how do you get them all on the same page to come together and and use their power together?
Yeah, so one thing that I think is important to note is that it's not about empowering teachers, but having them activate their power in their own voice. So we really view ourselves as a facilitators to help them figure out what the problem is. So we'll facilitate focus groups, we'll have large issue selections, and in fact, throughout Teacher Appreciation Week was last week, but we actually deem it Teacher Appreciation Month. Our organizers are out in the field talking to teachers, figuring out the issues that are most important to them. They've have it down to 12 topics, and come May 29th with Secretary John King, the teachers in the room will narrow down that issue to the top one that they're seeing, and then we'll find a way to determine what policy issue, what level of advocacy do we want to tackle, and make sure that teachers can elevate their voice and be professionals in this work and make the changes that they want to see happen for their students.
Wow, okay. Now, Matt, I understand now you testified at a budget hearing before the City Council recently. Can you sort of tell us what that was all about and what you were advocating for?
Sure. I was also advocating for more guidance counselors and school psychologists in our schools, and the reason I did that is because I've seen just how effective these professionals can be, and we just need more of them. I spoke in particular about one student that was suffering from some serious trauma-related issues, and we're able to get her to a school psychologist and with the help of a guidance counselor, get a treatment plan for her. that led her to really turning it around in school. And so I shared that with the school committee, and just I want our schools to have more of these professionals.
Okay. Brandy, about the Boston schools, what about some of the other needs that the teachers would like to see addressed in terms of budgeting?
Yeah, so, whenever you're talking about budgeting, there's always tons of issues because there's a limited pie, limited resources, and our teachers are seeing the need for students suffering trauma in particular to have more access to mental health experts and professionals in particular, which is why I'm so proud to be a part of the work that they did in testifying in front of the school committee and also at City Hall for the mayor's appropriation of $2.4 million. And also they're seeing a variety of needs. We're hearing from teachers that they want to see more staff that reflects the student population in particular, both in the teaching level and also amongst these mental health professionals. They're worried about school discipline policies and how they may be contributing to the school to prison pipeline. They're also concerned about how do we foster a positive climate in school so that it's a joy factor and not something that kids feel like they're being punished to attend. So I think our teachers are seeing a lot of different issues and are really looking to utilize their voice to push the district to allocate resources in the way that will most meet the needs of students.
Yeah, I'm just fascinated by this whole push for psychologists and social workers and nurses in schools. I mean, you think of schools as a place where students are to be educated, but the importance of putting an emphasis on just mental health and psychologists and health in general. Talk to me about that a little bit more.
Yeah. So my experience as a teacher, trauma is affecting students in a wide variety of ways that aren't always obvious to see if you're not trained in how to deal with these issues. So sometimes it might cause students to disengage, it might cause students to act out, sometimes it interferes with attendance. And we know from recent studies that it interferes with students' ability to process new information and learn new things, and so they won't excel as well academically if they're struggling with trauma. So it really is critical that we have adequate staff there to address these needs and to meet these needs so that students can be successful.
The last 2 or 3 years, we've seen a lot of these walkouts in Boston, students walking out. Do you feel that you're sort of getting any input from the students at all when these issues come up that you're trying to face as a group of teachers?
Yeah, so we haven't worked directly with student groups yet, as we've only been around for about 1.5 years now, but I do know that when our teachers come together, and Matt can speak to this as well, they're talking about what their students are experiencing and what's happening with them, and so their perspective and their viewpoint is definitely something that's important and valued.
Okay. Now, as teachers get more organized, do you think you'll be playing a larger role in policy making in the coming years? Are you hoping for that?
As I mentioned, all we're about is facilitating teacher voice and not even empowering them, but giving them the access to power so that they can make the changes that they want to see happen. And so I'd be privileged to be able to support that work moving forward.
Matt, I guess I'll give you the last word. What do you think the policy makers, the politicians, and every other folks need to know about what teachers really need, educators?
Well, we're the ones that are interacting with the students every single day. We see what needs are being met, what needs aren't being met. So the reason why our voice needs to be heard is because we're the ones, on the front lines, so to speak, and we can tell them what needs to be done.
All right, and we'll leave it right there. Matt Clark and Brandy Fluker-Oakley, thank you both for coming in, and good luck with your efforts. And I really do wish you luck in those efforts, because I think nurses, psychologists, and others are really important in our schools, seeing what we're seeing today going on out there. So thanks for coming in. Coming up next, getting some of Boston's toughest youths and formerly gang involved to go to college and change their lives around. Details on that coming up right here on Urban Update. We'll be right back.